It is 6 o'clock, so in order to get everybody in and out of here as quickly as possible, I guess we'll get going here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ryan Kronowski. I'm the Director of Community Development for the city. A lot of you might have worked with Michael Ostrowski in the past. Michael left, went to San Marcos, Texas, where it's much warmer in the winter than it is here, and I moved up into his position. Some of you might also have worked with Kyle Kearns in the past. Kyle's still with the department. And so just to give you an idea of how I fit into that crazy scheme that is local government. So, but tonight we're here to talk about the Business Improvement District. This is just an informational meeting. I guess I'll preface the entire meeting with, we're really just here to present what it is, get some initial feedback, and find out if there's a really big interest in whether or not we should improve or implement something like this in the greater downtown area. Again, so I'll get out of the way. So tonight, this is pretty much what we're going to touch base on, where did the idea come from, what it is, some successful examples, how a business improvement district works, where we're at in the process, how it gets created, and of course the overview on the possible downtown business improvement district. So first, where did this idea come from? Essentially, the Stevens Point Alliance, that some of you are part of, some of you may not be, came to the city late in the budgeting process and asked for more or less $40,000 to help promote bring events to the downtown area. And at that time, again, we were late in the budget process. A lot of things had already been decided upon. We were just kind of going through the last few steps on getting a budget approved. And so Kathy and Troy and I met and thought, well, what are some other creative opportunities here for this money to be utilized downtown? And we came up with this idea of, well, what if we implement a business improvement district? And so we've been working closely with the Stevens Point Alliance to create some type of template for a possible downtown business improvement district. So essentially, what is a business improvement district? It's been around in Wisconsin since the mid-1980s. It enables communities through their bid board of directors to levy additional property tax onto a specific geographic region. And that property tax would contribute to programs aimed at promotion, management, maintenance, development of that specific district. This is a really important piece, that any money that's levied within the district has to be used within the business improvement district, i.e. we can't take, as a city, the money that you guys would pay as downtown businesses or downtown property owners and put it out towards the business market. It has to be used within the downtown area, within that geographic region. Wisconsin currently has 84 active business improvement districts. Milwaukee's got a number of those, but it ranges from our largest municipalities like Milwaukee all the way down to Tomahawk, Eagle River, Monroe, Wisconsin. Smaller ones also have implemented this tool for additional revenue, especially in their downtown areas and their commercial corridors. So a successful example of business improvement districts. I like using this photo. This is Wausau. I think everyone kind of knows that. That's actually something that Wausau's done with their business improvement district, is the umbrella, which brings a lot of the tourists, a lot of people downtown, which creates then the foot traffic to go into those businesses and create new clients and customers for folks in the downtown Wausau area. Milwaukee's 3rd Ward, if any of you have been to the Milwaukee Public Market, that's kind of interesting. That building is actually owned and operated by the Milwaukee 3rd Ward Business Improvement District. And then Neenah downtown, just to give us more of an example on more locally what those are. So again, this is the Wausau. That's one of the examples that their business improvement district does. They also have this online concierge service. And actually, this GIS map was put together by UWSP students. But this isn't active right now. This is just a screenshot. But you can hop on your phone, go to the Wausau Business Improvement District website, and click on this and click on any of these, and I'll show you where in the downtown business area you can find whatever you're looking for, whether it be dining options, restaurants, lodging, government services, things of that nature. So this is just an example of something that the Business Improvement District could pay for if there was an interest. Again, Milwaukee's historic 3rd Ward. All of this infrastructure, the fancy light poles, the bike racks, things of that nature, the greenery along the sidewalk, that is all paid for by the Business Improvement District. Just to give you another example of what the Business Improvement District could pay for. The Archway, again, this is a building that's owned by that Business Improvement District. Pretty extensive. I don't think we're necessarily looking at something like that, but just to give you an example of how bids have been utilized throughout the state in the past. So more or less, the question is, how does a business improvement district work? So let's say you own a historical building, downtown Stevens Point. Your property is assessed at $200,000. That's the land and the improvements or the building on that. In 2019, you paid roughly $5,000 in property taxes. Let's say a bid is implemented and we implement $1 per thousand. Your property taxes would go up $200 a year, and that $200 that you pay within that business improvement district would go towards the promotion, the maintenance, the events that the business improvement district board of directors would decide on. And in return, again, you would get the promotion of downtown Stevens Point through marketing and promotion, management of events, things like the wine walk, Rock the Dock, I know happened this last year. Those would all be promoted, done through the business improvement district. For example, you could also do wayfinding signage. So if you're a tourist that's in the downtown area and you're looking for, what's the distance from the corner of Strong's and Main down to the river, you could say, it's 4 blocks west is the river, things of that nature. So again, you would pay those property taxes, and in return you would get this. And the real goal, again, at the end of the day, is to get more people into the downtown through the promotion of events and of the businesses downtown, for more customers and for more clients within the business improvement district area. Kind of on the 30,000 foot viewpoint, several bids in Wisconsin hire part-time or full-time bid managers. I don't think that's necessarily what we're looking to do right now. That could happen down the road, but right now I think a lot of it would be managed through this bid board of directors that would be created as a result of this, if this is the route that we decide to go through. But money that's levied for purposes of the bid, again, must be utilized within the bid. The city would be the caretaker, so because we collect property tax as the city, we would be the caretaker of those funds, and then we would disperse those funds consistent with the bid board of directors directive. You could hire a third party to maintain and implement the bid board's board directives. So an example is like the city of Wausau, their Riverfront Business Improvement District is not managed by the city or the bid board of directors. It's managed by the Wausau Riverfront, I think Arts Alliance or something of that nature. So they actually are the ones who implement and take care of the funds and things like that. In this scenario, what the city would be looking at is we'd be the main caretaker of the fund, but disperse funds as required by the board of directors directive. A really important piece here is property tax exempt entities and residential properties are exempt from being levied as part of the business improvement district. However, mixed use development like the Lullaby site, the Northside Yard project, the Berkshire housing project, those are all subject to the bid levy. So just keep that in the back of your mind going forward. So where are we at in the process? We're pretty early on at this point. This conversation has more or less started. We've put together some preliminary outlines for a possible operating plan. And so we felt as though we couldn't go any further and we didn't want to spend any more staff time or the Stevens Point Alliance time until we got some feedback from the folks that may be impacted by the business improvement district. And so that's where we're at tonight, just to get some general feedback. Is this something that you folks are interested in pursuing with the city, or are we going to face an uphill battle? Maybe we don't want to pursue that any further. Again, if we feel there's enough interest, the city and the Stevens Point Alliance will put together a bid planning committee, which will create and finalize the operating plan. That is our next step in the business improvement district process. So how does a business improvement district get created? The first step after tonight is that there will be a planning committee that's formed of volunteers that include folks that own property within the business improvement district. That operating plan would include initial levy amount, implementation plans, how the board would be structured, and how the business improvement district relates to existing master plan documents. The city is in the midst of updating our targeted area master plan for the downtown area. We have a comprehensive city plan that we've been implementing and updating in the last few years now, among other plans, bike and pedestrian plans. Really what the state's looking for is if this business improvement district is created, how will it work with and intermingle with the existing master plan documents the city already has? After that document's created, it's a pretty thick document. We would then take it to the City Plan Commission. So the Planning Committee would then write a formal petition to the City Plan Commission asking for a public hearing, asking for the city to take up the Business Improvement District initial operating plan. The City Plan Commission would hold a public hearing, just like a lot of you were notified through U.S. Postal Service. We have to send you that public hearing notice. And then the Plan Commission would take the public hearing, consider that, and make a determination whether or not they would recommend to the City Council approval or denial. After the Plan Commission makes a recommendation, there's a 30-day waiting period. During that 30-day waiting period, property owners impacted by the establishment of the bid are encouraged to provide input and feedback. This is also the opportunity where you say, okay, so do Stevens Point and Stevens Point Alliance, you guys are kind of gone off the deep end. We really don't want to have this anymore. This is where you can also submit your petition to no longer implement the bid. And we'll get into that in a little bit here. But then the City Council reviews the Plan Commission's recommendation, either adopts or rejects the bid operating plan. If it's adopted, then the mayor would appoint the bid board of directors consistent with the bid operating plan. If the City Council rejects it, it goes back to the bid planning committee for their consideration to make adjustments as they see fit or to abandon the plan as a whole. Again, if you don't want a business improvement district, during the 30-day waiting period, property owners are encouraged to either petition the city through 40% of the total properties of the value of the property to be assessed. You can petition and say, hey, we don't want this. We'd rather not have this business improvement district like the way the downtown Stevens Point Alliance is currently structured, things of that nature. And these things have to be considered when either implementing or rejecting a bid. So I suppose before we get into what we're tentatively thinking, I know I kind of gave you the quick overview of what a business improvement district is. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? Yeah.
Right now you've got the bid, or planning on the bid.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between the historic program when I have an older building there? Aren't we already doing some of that?
Like for historic structures?
For instance, we have an awning right now that's ripped.
Yeah.
And I have to put a new one in.
Yeah.
It's probably $6,000 to $8,000.
Sure.
Is there money coming for that?
There could be. So as part of the operating plan for the business improvement district, you could create a fund that helps with facade improvements and repairs. Currently the city, we operate the Facade Grant Program through my department, but the bid could take that over. The bid could also put money aside for businesses looking to improve their properties, replace awnings, things of that nature.
But we already have it on the historic readings, there where people we go talk to the city and they have money coming.
Right, through the Facade Grant Program.
Without the bid.
Right, without the bid, yep. And so the city could, and the bid could look to transfer the existing Facade Grant Program to the bid itself, have the bid board of directors manage that fund. The city could continue to manage that fund, or the bid could create another more or less account for facade improvements on top of what the city could offer. Does that make sense? Mike?
So, in going with that, they asked for 40 grand. Do you have a sense of what the city has invested on an annual basis now for things that go to downtown that would maybe go away if you develop a bid, including the facade program?
You know, we don't have that. It's definitely something that we can look into getting. I think that's a great question because I don't think that we had really thought of that. You know, it's important to remember that the business improvement district, the levy is for additional city services on top of what we already offer. And so snow plowing is a really good example. It's not necessarily something that they're looking at right now, but you know, the city doesn't plow your sidewalks downtown. That's up to the property owners. But the business improvement district could contract with a third party or with the city to to plow snow on the sidewalks and take that responsibility away from the property owners. So this would be an additional tax on services outside of what we already offer.
So you don't see like the facade program, an argument being made, well, there's a bid, so we're not gonna fund that anymore, we're gonna reallocate those funds because the bid would now take that on?
I don't think so. So that money was put in to that specific account for making sure that our historic structures are maintained properly and to help offset some of those costs. I think in the short term, the city would retain the facade grant program. We could down the road look at transferring that money over to the business improvement district, but it's not something that we intend to do immediately. The city does a really nice job managing that fund and working with the business owners downtown. And so again, we would probably keep that within the department at this time. But as an example, that could be something we would transfer over to the business improvement district down the road. Alder.
It might be helpful, maybe this is too much to ask, but just based on the questions so far, this is not a TIF, this is not a historic district, this is something totally different, and I'm worried if people start conflating these things or mixing them up. They're all separate.
Yeah, so that's a great point. So just real quick to give you an overview, the business improvement district is separate from the tax incremental finance district, of which the downtown is already a part of, and it's separate from the historic preservation, the historic district of Main Street. So the tax incremental finance district is a economic development tool that the city has utilized in the past pretty successfully for redevelopment. This building is a good example of that. So this is part of the old mall. The city used TIF to help offset some of the costs for acquisition, demolition, creating the parking lot, things of that nature. The business improvement district itself is a separate physical geographic region that pays an additional tax and in return gets additional services from the city per se. You could do the snow plowing of your sidewalks. You could do the maintenance of the flower beds downtown, new lighting, new infrastructure. On the flip side, the business improvement district would also help promote, manage downtown events, promote the businesses in the downtown. Again, that's separate from tax incremental finance. The facade grant program is actually kind of the brainchild of that TIF, or tax incremental finance. That's where the original money came from for the $30,000 grant that we do offer. So if any of you have an old building that needs a facade replacement or repairs, that is something we do offer. You can talk to me afterwards. But it's different. And then the historical, that was created, I think, in the 80s, the historic district, and that is separate from the bid itself and is separate from the tax incremental finance. That is more or less to review and approve facade changes, updates to your businesses downtown, the exteriors to keep a consistent historical look in our downtown district. So, to answer your question.
And the only other thing to note as well with the tax incremental financing district is that at some point it does close. That'll be in the 2030s, so it's not going to be for a ways off yet, but at some point that TIF district will be closed. So, it's more of a temporary project to try and increase the tax base in an area, but it's not necessarily a sustainable way of funding programs in perpetuity.
Right.
So you've got two different people, for instance, there's the bid and then there's another bunch of people from the historic. Who's going to do this for me?
Well, the bid itself would have a board of directors, and that would require at least half of the board of directors have to be property owners within the business improvement district. Those are appointed and approved by the city council, and those are the ones who are the caretaker of the fund. So they would say, for example, your business needs a new awning. It's going to cost you $6,000. Well, the business improvement district, through a few years, has some money put aside for improvements to your business. You could apply for a grant. That money is managed by the bid board of directors. The tax incremental finance district, the city manages the development and the development agreements within that TIF district, but it's more or less managed by the joint board of review, which is the county, the city, the technical college. It's really separate from what the business improvement district is. The historical preservation aspect, we do have a commission that's been established that reviews facade updates, things of that nature. So you've got 3 different entities all doing 3 different things, very distinct things, mind you. So does that answer your question?
So somebody already did it, somebody's gonna pay then, one way or the other, huh?
Sure, that's one way to put it, so.
Well, if this is going to be funded by taxes,
Correct.
who are the people that are going to be taxed for?
So this is a good transition, I think, into this downtown bid. So this is what we're tentatively thinking. Anything within the blue would be subject to the Business Improvement District property tax. There are some, I think, pretty critical things to note. This is the Lullaby site, the North Side Yard project. At the end of that, there'll be about a $25 million assessed value. And then this is the Berkshire development. This is something that we could add to the development itself. That's another 10 million or so, and well, 8.7 million in assessed value that could be added to the Business Improvement District as well. But the funds that are collected from the properties within this blue shaded area have to be used within this blue shaded area. That makes sense. So I'll give you just an example of what we're tentatively thinking. So this is about 142 parcels in the downtown area. So 2019, the assessed value of downtown was $49 million. In 2020, with the Northside Yard project, with the Berkshire development, we're looking at about 64 million in assessed value. So there's more money that could be coming in to utilize within the Business Improvement District. 2021, 138 parcels. That's some combination of parcels for some development, but you're looking at assessed value of about 78 million. Northside Yard, Berkshire Affordable Senior Housing Development drive the increase in the assessed value over the next 2 to 4 years. There's more coming down the pipeline that I can't really get into in terms of new development in the downtown area, but the assessed value near downtown within the Business Improvement District will increase over time. So this is just a quick example. Let's say the Business Improvement District's original budget was $60,000. Based on the assessments that we just talked about, we would do $1.25 per thousand, so your property's assessed at X number of dollars of land and the improvements or the buildings on the property. We would say, if you got a $100,000 assessment, if we increase it by $1, it'd be $200 more a year. That $200 a year would have to be utilized within the Business Improvement District. And this is just an example of if we staying at a $60,000 budget or a $40,000 budget, this is what you would be paying per thousand additional on your taxes. It's a little confusing if you're not a local government professional, right? So as we would go forward and as we would create this Business Improvement District, there's a good chance that we would, on our website, have you type in your address, for example, 1116 Main, that's the Fox. And you could look at what your assessed value is, what is proposed, how much your taxes would be increased as a result of the Business Improvement District. As long as the budget stays level and the assessed value in the district is increased, the bid levy could decrease every year. Again, the initial plan is to really focus on promotion of the downtown business district and the events within the bid itself, the downtown events. And so if you staying at the $40,000 a year, as more assessed value comes on into the Business Improvement District, your assessed value would go down, your levy would go down from, let's say, 82 cents per thousand to 52 cents per thousand. So you're still paying more in taxes over time, but those taxes are being utilized within the Business Improvement District itself. So brass tacks, what are we wanting out of this bid? Short-term promotion of downtown and the businesses, management of the website, marketing the downtown area as a destination, promoting businesses to relocate to the downtown, creation of, let's say, the digital concierge like we saw in Wausau, and then management of the events, existing events like the parades, the wine walks, Rock the Dock, and new events that would come as a result of the Business Improvement District. That's short-term. Long-term, this is kind of really up to after the bid's created. Contracted lawn care and sidewalk snow removal services. There's a lot of discussion about the picking of snow from the side after the plow's gone through and removing that so that people have easier access to the businesses. That could be something that could be contracted out. The city wouldn't have to do it anymore, and you wouldn't have to wait until we come through at 3 or 4 in the morning. Public art programming, creation of wayfinding signage, things like that. Possible management of the downtown facade grant program. If that is something that the business improvement district would be interested in taking on, we could have that discussion. And then of course having someone full-time, probably part-time, really focused on the marketing aspect of the downtown area. Just get Stevens Point back into the Main Street community program that we once were. We've fallen out of that compliance, and so we actually aren't even a Main Street community anymore. If you have questions or comments, my cards are up in the front. Please provide them to me. We'll take these all and decide whether or not this is something we want to continue to go forward with. But that's kind of the quick overview of what a business improvement district is. If there are any additional questions, comments, concerns?
Brian, quick question, just, and maybe you covered this, and if you did, I apologize. Let's just say, First Financial, Associated Bank.
Yep.
They would be at the same rate, that dollar per thousand, as Goose, for instance? Or are those businesses not into that, or Century Insurance, if they choose to unmothball it and put people there, are they all in the same rate as the small businesses?
Yeah, you're asking a really interesting question. So there's 2 ways to do it. You can do the flat, per thousand rate, and that would apply to Goose, for example. Let's say you do 50 cents per thousand, you would pay 50 cents per thousand, Century would pay 50 cents per thousand, Associated, all those would pay the same levied amount. The Wausau Riverfront has a little bit different, so everyone pays a minimum of, I think it's $200, and depending on the value, their yearly assessment might go up to, I think they max out at $2,500.
So we're not excluding large, non-retail businesses?
We are very much including
It's all
them.
inclusive inside that shaded area?
Yep, so Century's here, the Associated Bank building is here, Shopko at their $3.5 million assessed value is still included in this. So yeah, anyone within this would, and that's something that the bid planning committee could look at as they create that document, that operating plan that we are interested in creating.
Okay, thank you.
It's just a comment, and something you keep mentioning is the snow removal.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of business people here that do their own lots, but a lot of the businesses rent out their space, and their tenant takes care of it. So this would be no betterment to those businesses or building owners. And also, you keep talking about the flowers. We have beautiful flower arrangements now.
Yeah.
And are those going away if we don't go with it?
No,
Okay, so
not necessarily. That's something that
Those are 2 of the 3, 4, 5 things you've mentioned. So.
yeah. So I think the snow removal one I've brought up a few times because it seems to be a really important piece. When I've had these conversations, I think business owners don't necessarily want to be outside shoveling snow off the sidewalk. And if you shovel your sidewalk, that doesn't mean Goo is going to shovel his sidewalk at the same time. So if you hire someone to come in and do it, they'll do all of the downtown sidewalks at the same time, which you could argue is better for the foot traffic, things of that nature. Regarding the flower beds, we have phenomenal greenscape on our downtown area, and I don't think that would go away at all because of this. However, instead of the city managing that, we could have another party manage that and make it even more beautiful, for example. Our city parks department only has so many man hours in a day that they can utilize. If we're looking to beautify downtown, is it easier for us to contract that out with a third party as opposed to continuing to have our parks department and our streets department maintain that? Just as an example.
So as an example then, because we have flowers, all that kind of thing right now, you switch it to the bid, which so our taxes would be paying for something that's done already.
Right.
Right. Yeah, for the flowers. Now, if you exclude the flowers out of
Okay, take
that.
the flowers out.
Yep.
okay. How about the snow removal?
Yep.
Our property has a parking lot. Obviously that, you wouldn't be doing the parking lot.
Right.
But you're taxing the parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, your assessed value is what it's
Includes the
based
parking
on.
lot, includes the small building behind us,
Right.
yet there's no benefit there.
Could it though? I mean, couldn't the bid committee include the,
That's something the big committee decides to look at is parking lot snow removal, for example. It's something that they could look at. That's kind of the beauty of the business improvement district is you have a lot of flexibility based on what that specific district needs or wants. And so you get 5 or 6 people within the business improvement district, the shaded area that's on that bid board of directors. They can say, this is something that we're really passionate about, promoting downtown, marketing events, things of that nature. We're going to stick a lot of our money into that as opposed to snow removal, for example. Again, the snow removal aspect I think is a long-term discussion. I don't think it's going to start happening next year or in 2 years. The short-term idea is to get the bid up and running and really focus on what the Stevens Point Alliance is doing now, which is promoting the district as a whole and marketing, creating, organizing events in the downtown.
Right now, obviously, promote the downtown, make it better. Okay. The promotions that we have to do that you had mentioned in your sheets, corn on the curb, holiday parade, other such things that are usually held on the square. Well, our building is right on the square, and if there's any, we're fenced off. They make a fence. You can't even get from that promotional area to our building unless you basically go around the block.
Sure.
It's cutting us off. It's not helping us.
Sure.
So the promotions that you had mentioned in here about the bed,
Sure.
that just hurts us, doesn't help us. We pay taxes for something that hurts us.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point. Are these events doing more harm to your business as opposed to other businesses? You could argue that the events that are downtown are bringing more foot traffic to the downtown, other businesses in the downtown, thereby creating a more economically resilient area. Is that something that we're more interested in as opposed to 1 or 2 businesses that may be impacted by events? You're also impacted probably more positively by simply having better promotion and marketing of the downtown area. And that's, in the short term, something that we're really looking at to utilize. Mike?
I think one thing that would help, and this is probably a question for Troy, is if they were asking for 40 grand, what is the budget for these things? I mean, what are we talking for corn on the curb and those things that cost that amount for promoting that, whether it's advertising, different things? It does sound like a lot of the things that the city is flipping the bill for in the general budget now would fall under this. But, the makeup of downtown has shifted from more retail and food over time to office. So a lot of us that maybe have office, I have tenants that have retail and they benefit from those events, but it would be good to know, what, beyond just getting to this process, how is that money spent? What's the need for those events?
Because the original start of the Stevens Point Alliance, you've been trying to reach out for some funds. Okay. Initially from the general budget, and some of it comes from the conversation of either the Visitors Bureau, for example. Okay. The city gets $255,000 a year from room tax dollars, okay, from the hotels. that money goes into the general budget to the city. So we looked at that and we said, well, if there's $255,000 coming from the room tax and downtown is helping, I'm giving you a full story here now. Sure. Not the short answer, I'm giving you the full story. I guess it's a good place to do it. So we looked at that and we're like, well, so maybe we can get into the finance committee and ask for some funds potentially from the city, from their general funds. Okay, we're not asking for room tax dollars, but from the general funds. Now remember, city gets $255,000 from room tax. It goes into the general funds. General funds, then now city has at their disposal to budget. Yeah, we got in late this year for the 2020 budget, but we had to get our foot in the door sometime. So this was the time. And what we did, I think, was a great step in moving forward. I'll get to your conversation with the bid here. So now, how the bid comes about. So the budget was done. Budget was already voted on a preliminary stage. Got passed on through the council. Left the finance committee and the council left it with, well, let's see what's available for the future and how we can help promote and market downtown. So I wear 2 hats. Actually 3, right? So I own property downtown, I run a business in downtown, I'm also the president of Stevens Point Alliance, okay? So I'm seeing all 3 ends of it, okay? When this idea first came up and Brian suggested this potential option that's very profitable in a lot of cities to help market and promote their downtowns, to create value to increase the property value of your property, to increase the property value of my property that I own. The business that I happen to currently run, I probably won't be there forever, I hope not. Someday it'll be maybe leased out to somebody else. But the value is, you all bought property in downtown, those are our owners, all bought property in the downtown area, one or two ways. One, maybe it was cheap, you got a good deal, you need some repair, you like the location, right? Everybody falls in some category there, okay? Actually, I mentioned all those categories, they fall all the way through. So when you look at the full picture of why the Stevens Point Alliance is, I'm very passionate about it. I've been down business in downtown Point, owning and running since 1994, different locations. So I've seen it from then to now, and if there's ever a time that's been more important to really unify co-op effort to help market and promote the downtown, it's definitely now, in today's future. As you said at the council meetings publicly, the online shopping, okay, the retail shopping that's happening online. I mean, hell, I can order something right now from Amazon, probably have it at my doorstep tomorrow morning again. These things are really withering away the value of downtown storefronts. So when you look at a concept that has a marketing potential, the event potential, we're talking about the events that happen downtown that bring in folks, and as much as I totally recognize that, and I talk to Rand all the time, about how we can work together to make his properties work better for certain events. It's a way to bring in those potential customers. We all buy advertising, pay-per-clicks, how many impressions, how much this, how much that. Everything has a cost. Ain't nothing free. Everything has a cost. If it's Google ads, if it's a buyer's guide ad, or whatever it's going to be, there's a cost for that. Well, when this event comes in downtown, the association, the alliance, brings in 3,000-4,000 people for that one particular event, right, at that 3-hour window that saw your storefront that was maybe looking really good, beautified, promotional signage. And we always, as an alliance, we always invite any folks from downtown to help market and promote their business as well. So to get to the specific dollar amount, everything has different price points, okay? Different events cost more money. Most events usually go to the black. There's events that go into the red once in a while, okay? That's just how life works. But in the bigger score, looking at the whole picture, what the funding is used for is marketing, managing, and promotion of that. So currently right now we have an unpaid board, unpaid management. There's things that fall through the wayside. Just even membership, for example. There's a lot of people that have to put in a lot of time, volunteer time, for the better good of the entire community of the downtown, which potentially could be the bid district. If that happens, you're going to start seeing everybody becomes a member. So there's no more membership drive, there's no more wasted labor, but the time and energy spent trying to create membership to the alliance to help market promotion of their business and their location. That goes away because everybody in that bid district basically becomes a member by your tax. Okay? Very profitable. It's in 84 different bid locations in the state. So it was an idea of how we can maybe unify the downtown in a potential way. Just a lot of, let's say, big players, big investment, big property owners, as the map was up on the screen, that really will help to benefit the entire downtown. If it's a shop that only is a 1,000 square foot shop, or a 1,500 square foot shop, or I think there's even some smaller ones, some smaller buildings in downtown. Their portion of that bid, again, the dollar amount is not even picked, right? So, I mean, right, 50 cents, $1,000, $1, that's all to be
determined. Yeah,
designed, right?
I think going forward, we would create this bid planning committee. We would put together the packet itself, and then we would do another informational meeting before petitioning the city, saying, you know what, our budget is $30,000, for example. This geographic region, this could stay as is. We could change it, shape it how we see fit, but then this is what the impact is on your property taxes. It might go from, we've talked about $1 per thousand as an example. You might go down to 30 cents per thousand. You might go to 50 cents, things of that nature. So I think what I'm getting a lot of is, we're still interested to see how this would play out, and I think the next step is that we need to create this bid planning committee to further understand what the Stevens Point Alliance is trying to achieve, what the city's trying to achieve, and how it would impact each individual property in our downtown. Is that a general idea, or am I crazy? You can tell me I'm crazy, people do it all the time.
I think you got one more thing to finish up where I was with that. And I heard this earlier in a few comments. City ain't gonna like this, but if the bid district still goes through, we still are gonna be knocking on the finance committee's door. We're still gonna be asking for some funds to help market promote their downtown. The bid district is not like alleviate the city from saying we don't care about our downtown anymore. We are still gonna be going to the city council. We're still gonna go to the city finance committee. We're still gonna put our requests in for funds to help market and promote and the efforts of downtown. And it's that doesn't go away. Because I hear things like you were saying, certain services are gonna go away. That all kind of stays. It's an addition to, it's making it stronger, bigger, better, and definitely in the marketing sense in today's age where we need that attention. We need life in downtown.
I just worry, we have a time where the fire is saying they don't have enough, police doesn't have enough. It's a lot easier for the city to say, you got a bid now, you guys have money, you take care of that, I mean, it's a lot easier to say no moving forward because everybody's pinched.
I totally recognize that.
I'm wondering, I can picture good things with this, but if it doesn't work and it just becomes another bureaucracy with little to no value, how do we get rid of it? If we have another tax, then.
Yeah. So it's fairly simple. If you guys want to get rid of the business improvement district, I believe it's 50% of the property owners within the district would have to petition to get it dissolved, and then it would more or less dissolve as a result thereof.
And what constitutes a vote? Is it a parcel or is it a dollar?
Well, typically it's per parcel. So if half the parcels say, you know what, we really have no interest in doing this anymore, they could do that. The other flip side, I think, is 40% of the total assessed value of the district could also petition for dissolving the business improvement district. Or the city could, I think as part of the initial operating resolution, say, we're going to do this for 3 years. We'll sunset it at 3 years, but year 3 we're going to decide, is this something we still think there's value in doing, or should we dissolve it now as a community? If that eases the concerns, I think there's definitely some merit to doing something like that. It gives us a little bit of time to get the bid up on its feet, to get it operating, and determine whether or not the impact that property owners, business owners are hoping to get from the business improvement district, determine whether or not they're receiving that benefit.
So it looks to me like you were saying it's $1, the mill rate is $1 per 1,000 to get about 40 grand.
Yeah, based on,
To get 60 grand.
so if this is,
somebody, that money
right.
would be spent.
Right, it could go up, it could go down. If the board of directors doesn't want someone to be exclusively focused on promotion, event management of the bid, then the bid board of directors would be that group that would operate those event management, would hire someone to, like on a contract, to do the promotion, the business, the website, things like that. Something that what Stevens Point Alliance does now is that they hire a third party to manage the website, update the social media. And so instead of having the Stevens Point Alliance, which is very membership focused, the whole business improvement district would benefit from that as a whole. So if they said, we need $40,000 a year, based on the existing assessments, this is what, how your taxes would increase or decrease. It's hard to do that calculation unless you know your assessed value. And unless you're a local government nerd like myself, you probably don't know what the assessed value of your home is, right? You don't know what the assessed value of your property is. But as we would go forward, I've got a whole spreadsheet I can send out to you that will say, here's what the property address is, what the land value is assessed at, what the improvements or the buildings are assessed at, your current tax rate, and if the bid were to be created at this amount, what that difference would be between what you paid in 2019 and what you would pay in 2020 or 2021, for example. But this needs to be decided through this initial bid operating plan. And again, this could, maybe they don't need, maybe the downtown bid doesn't need 40,000 a year, maybe it needs 20,000 or 25,000 a year. I think this lower amount is much more palatable in the initial years of the business improvement district, as opposed to going all out the first year and saying, hey, we need 60, we need 100,000 bucks to do this. I think there's a way to ease ourselves into this to feel more comfortable with the business improvement district.
And that still requires volunteers to manage it, right?
So the funds are managed by the business improvement district, which is an appointed board of directors. The city would take in the funds, we would hold them in a special account that we cannot utilize for anything else within the city, can only be utilized for business improvement district expenses. The bid board says, we want to hire a marketing firm for $10,000 to do a marketing campaign. They would vote on it, they would approve it, the city would send a check out. But that has to be utilized within the business improvement district itself, again. Yeah, Mike.
Remind me, you said the bid board would be yourself, the District 1 alder, and then how many people, and they don't have to be Stevens Point residents?
Right, so it kind of changes. So some of you have seen the outline of an operating plan that I have put together a little bit with Kathy and Troy. The tentative plan is a 7-person bid board of directors. I would be one of them, or the community development director. One of the 3 alders whose district is part of the bid, so I think it's 1, 4, and 9. Those are the 3 that have property within the proposed business improvement district to be on there. 3 or 4 property owners within the business improvement district, but they do not have to be residents of the city. They just have to be property owners within the blue shaded area that was up earlier. And then I think 1 citizen appointee. Now that could change. This bid planning committee could get together and say, that's a crazy idea. We want a super majority of property owners within the business improvement district. We don't want city staff on that. We want them to be more ex officio advisory. And so that, again, could change, but the preliminary plan was a 7 or 8 person board structured like that, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a few weeks since I've looked at that plan, so. Yeah.
Do you have any numbers like from Wausau, for example, like where they're at with their, cost per thousand and their general budget for their bid district, or maybe neither? I know we're smaller than those 2.
Yeah, so in the state, the lowest per thousand is like 6 cents per thousand, and that's for more of like a commercial neighborhood district. They can go from 6 cents. One of the Milwaukee bids is like $5 or $6 per thousand, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. But they also have a several $1 million operating budget. Wausau is a little different because of the how they've got that structure base. Everybody pays at least a minimum of $200 a year, and then based on the assessed value, it's more of a tiered system. Wausau's operating budget is about $50,000 a year.
Okay.
That's for their downtown river district, and so. Yeah, it really depends. I mean, there's a whole list, and this is all public information. If you go on UW Extension's website, you can get what's the average levied amount? It's about $1.50 per thousand. There are extremes on both ends, but it seems as though that $1.50 per thousand is what most folks come in at. Yep.
So you said residential homes are excluded?
Correct.
So my personal belief, I've been downtown for a while, my thoughts, we own the upper left on the map there. We used to have a business there, now we just have it as a 4-plex or 3-plex rental, commercial.
Yeah.
So I think we're assessed around $300,000, so it'd be roughly $300 a year. I mean, if you're at $1.
Yeah, give or take, yep.
So I don't own the business anymore, but, and I know I'll probably get shit from some people here.
Raise your hand.
Yeah, well, I spent, when we had the business, I spent $300 sometimes in a day on advertising.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's, I hate taxes, but I don't think it's a horrible, thing that, in my opinion, or if you're looking for, feedback, to push forward a little bit, just, to see where where this takes us, not just to drop it tonight. I don't know how you guys, what your plan is or what.
Sure.
Being I don't own a business anymore, it's probably a little different, but yeah, I could, you know, raise my rents because if they're making, you know, have an increase in business, I don't think we're in the best location. I think we're not going to benefit as much as, say, Troy might, because I think more of the hub, the activities right on that main drag there in the downtown square and so forth. So, I mean, we're kind of on the outer limits, but we are hopefully getting, you know, like you said, the big commercial project going to the east of us. I don't know, is that other project still going forward with the Bellevue lumber?
Yeah, we should be breaking around this spring. We're still working on
So, I
some
mean, you know,
financing
we're
and
fortunate
stuff.
to be in that proximity of activities. So, I mean, I'm sure we're going to see some, or the businesses that occupy our building are going to see some increased traffic.
Yeah, I mean, the city's done, has made a really big effort to, this is, you know, the core of our downtown, but the south side of downtown and the north side of downtown, to expand that, to expand the physical footprint of the downtown area through the mixed-use development, the live-work development, this senior housing development on the south side. And so, you know, it almost comes down to a revenue aspect. I mean, the tax revenue from a per acre standpoint is significantly higher in this area than it is for some of our more suburban parts of the city. And so whatever we can do to help redevelop, to increase that taxable base within the downtown area, not only benefits the city, it benefits the downtown business owners, benefits the downtown property owners. And so that's why we were looking at this and saying, you know, this is a real viable option. This is something that would be beneficial to the greater downtown and to the city as a whole. And we have very little vacancy on our storefronts on Main Street, even on Clark. You know, and that's part of the thriving community that we have and the thriving downtown that we have. And whatever we can do to keep that going down the road, I think is going to be beneficial. Any other questions, comments? Sure.
Well, just add to your last statement, you said there, there's very vacant, very few vacant storefronts. That is true. Are the rents very high? That square footage in the downtown area? Not at all. So if you can create the downtown in a more hustle-bustle manner and get larger traffic and customer base, and of course added events in and out around the downtown area, those property values go up. You that are, those of you folks that are just landlords of retail properties in a room, you think you'd be definitely positive on the fact that, well, if I can create a busy, good downtown, isn't my property going to be worth more? Can I rent that property for more then? It goes right with that. So there's the short game and then there's the future. If you're in for the short game, you want to save a few bucks, the bid district is definitely not for you. If you're in for a long haul and you're looking to increase the value of downtown, increase the overall aesthetics of the downtown. City does a great job with the flowers they do right now. But there's some many things that can happen here that enhance just the whole look and the feel of a downtown. Great job with Christmas lights this year. They did a great job with the new lights this year. Looks really good. But that whole sentiment though can carry on. It doesn't have to be this Christmas. You know, these shops are downtown 365 days a year. And they need traffic 365 days a year, not 1 month. So.
Any other questions, comments? Holly, I know you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah, I guess my question, because I definitely see the collective impact that this could have, and I think, as Troy can probably attest to, that having some maybe more of the passive property owners like the New North Side being basically mandated to contribute. And my question is whether you have an idea of, let's say Shopko gets redeveloped, then does Shopko North Side, that senior housing, are there like 4 or 5 properties that compose about that 40% assessed value where the bid itself could be at risk of those five major people being like, I don't really benefit from this, I don't want to participate, and then ending it. It's
Yeah.
definitely, I know it's numbers off the top of your head, but that's.
Yeah, and
That's like
I won't
this.
even try to lie about it, so,
Yeah.
it's definitely something we can look at, and there are, because we're, in the preliminary planning phase of this, we could exclude the Chase Bank building, we could exclude the Century building, but the more you start excluding.
Yeah, well, my thought was to keep them in there, but
Yeah.
it's just like having an understanding of, if the consolidation of power is in 6 property holders, really, that's something that you should know as a risk going.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's a really excellent point.
Shop goes.
At that point, would there also be a way to redesign the bid locations? I'm not sure.
Yep.
And redesign the locations?
Yeah, I mean, the bid boundary can be amended essentially once a year through an updated or amended operating plan. So it's kind of interesting about business improvement districts is every year that bid board of directors has to update their operating plan, update their budget, and submit it to the city for final consideration. And so, if we're comfortable with what we have now, or let's say the operating plan wants to exclude Chase Bank building, for example, that next year the operating plan could adjust the physical boundary to exclude the Chase Bank property as well. So there are opportunities to amend it. It's not, once it's created, it's not necessarily set in stone forever and ever and ever. There are ways to amend it.
With that same thought then, just like the city master plan moving forward, we're talking about Water Street moving, reconnecting back with Third.
Yep.
That becomes commercial property development there, correct?
Correct.
At that point, that blue line business.
You're talking this piece
expanded
right here, right? This is technically planned to be park space. This, if you take the Water Street right away, pipe it up to Third, this is where that new senior housing project is. This could be a mixed-use development that could be included in this, but this right here, no, that's planned for public green space. Because right now, it pretty much narrows down because of the right-of-way here, right here along the Grand Circle Trail. So we'd be looking to add more green space here.
Are they looking to do anything with that one-way going up North 2nd Street?
I didn't go catch that.
Are they, there was in the plans years ago about turning that one-way North 2nd to a two-way and then,
Yeah. So there are some 30,000 foot plans right now to turn Center Point into two-way, Clark Street to two-way. This mangled mess here would get cleaned up through improved intersections, roundabouts, different lighting options, things of that nature. So, but that, I mean, the bid could help to contribute to offset some of that cost. There is some infrastructure components that the bid could take on. I don't think that's necessarily the idea of this bid right now. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years down the road, they might have that discussion. But this is all within TIF district number 10, and the TIF district would embrace most of those costs. Alder. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, kind of feeding off of what you were talking about, Troy, is the new strategic vision and that overlay and what that means. And I think they feed off of each other. The strategic vision really sets a tone. The bid kind of feeds into that, and then there's a feedback loop that I think could go kind of on a constant basis. And I said this at Finance Committee, is that I was speaking with somebody in Wausau and had been at Riverfront, one of our biggest events in downtown, but he didn't even know where the downtown was. So one of the biggest thing in the new strategic vision is connecting the riverfront and that park area that's very utilized with the downtown. I shouldn't have to say, well, you were standing 5 feet from some of the best burgers in town, but that's exactly what I had to do. So I think these two things, if we accomplish them, they really can feed off of each other, and I won't have to explain to my friends in Wausau where the downtown is.
I know you could account.
Well, and you can change the levy if you want to start out with a lower amount and then different years if it's, it doesn't have to stay that exact budget.
Right, and let's say the bid board of directors wanted to make a wayfinding signage plan, and the dollar amount came back and it was higher than what they were hoping for, they could, for 1 year, increase the levy to help offset that cost, and the next year reduce that levy. It gives the bid board of directors, which is comprised of the majority of the property owners, a lot of leeway in how you guys more or less tax yourselves, and how you can utilize the money that's that revenue stream and your expenses. It's very fluid, and that's kind of the beauty of these business improvement districts, is that it's not the city making these decisions, it's you folks who have paid into it as a whole, so.
Kind of logistically on that note then, do you know what the timeline is for that budget approval process, and is it just applied to property taxes? Because if there is some volatility in that visioning, again, you want to, like, that's as a small business owner, hard thing to predict.
Yeah, so let's say we walk away from this meeting tonight and we're feeling pretty good, let's get this planning committee put together and we'll start creating this operating plan. It pretty much follows the next year, so if we get a plan through and adopted this coming fall, the levy would then go on in 2021, be utilized for 2022. So we're pretty far out on this just because of how property taxes are done in the state of Wisconsin. So we're a few years out, but during that time, Stevens Point Alliance, Arts Alliance isn't even a thing anymore. Stevens Point Alliance would still operate under their current plan in promoting and marketing downtown, but then come 2022, that fund is there for the bid. That's when the bid committee would be meeting and would be deciding where they want to invest the money they receive from the business improvement district properties.
In order to fit that timeline, to have it going in 2022, the proposal has to be in by September of this year?
I would say no later than August, September. Yeah. Seems like a long way away, but
It's not.
It's almost February, so.
It's not. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? I think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, that the idea is that this is something you guys are possibly interested in exploring, but you want more information on. If the operating plan were to be adopted, how would it impact your property? Does that seem like a fair assessment? So it seems like the next logical step would be any one of you who are interested in joining the bid planning committee. There's a sign-up sheet up in front. Things happen because of volunteers like you. I promise I will do all of the heavy lifting in the creation of the document, but it's important to have folks who would be impacted by the creation of the bid as part of that initial operating group. And so when we have something more solid and that we're ready to present, before we even take it to the city council or city plan commission, I think we would reconvene a group like this to decide, is this something worth our time and energy? So again, there's a sign-up sheet up here. Please volunteer. Yeah, there was a sign-in sheet around. Yeah, you know what, here, well, if you're interested, we'll change this. We will, there we go. It's right here. I know you guys are all very eager to sign this sheet, so with that, my contact information is, I've got business cards available here, a brief introduction, you also got your mail packet, and then this presentation tonight. So with that, thank you. Appreciate it.